The atmosphere around Scottish football has once again been clouded by an issue that simply refuses to go away. And this time, it has placed a young midfielder right at the centre of a storm he never asked for. Lyle Cameron's move north on loan should have been discussed purely in footballing terms, as a player looking for minutes, rhythm, and the chance to prove himself at a crucial stage of his career. Instead, the conversation was dragged into darker territory, with an ugly backlash emerging almost immediately after the deal was confirmed. What followed exposed just how quickly emotions can spill over when club rivalries and perceptions take precedence over basic respect. Cameron found himself subjected to a wave of hostility from sections of the Aberdeen support, a reaction that went far beyond disappointment or disagreement. The abuse aimed in his direction crossed lines that should never be crossed, forcing the midfielder to address the situation publicly. For a player simply trying to take the next step in his development, it became an unwanted distraction, and one that highlighted the personal cost footballers often pay when decisions are viewed through a tribal lens. His response, calm but firm, set the tone for how he intends to handle the noise surrounding his arrival. The frustration among some supporters stemmed from the fact that Cameron arrived from Rangers, a detail that for certain fans overshadowed everything else. That tension was laid bare on his debut, when a banner in the home end made feelings unmistakably clear. It was a stark reminder that, in Scotland, history and rivalry can still dominate narratives, even when a player pulls on the shirt with the sole intention of giving everything for his new club. Cameron, however, was under no illusions. He knew the reception might be frosty, and he accepted that reality long before he stepped onto the pitch. Rather than retreating or lashing out, Cameron chose a different path. He made it clear that he does not engage with social media, distancing himself from the online storm that often amplifies negativity. In his view, there was little point in feeding the noise. He acknowledged that supporters are entitled to their opinions, but he drew a clear boundary between criticism and abuse. His focus, he insisted, would remain on working hard, fitting into the team, and letting his football speak for him over the coming weeks and months. That mindset was evident almost immediately in his first appearance. Despite the tension swirling around him, Cameron approached his debut with professionalism and composure. The performance itself was not flawless, something he was quick to admit, but it did not need to be. What mattered was contribution, and he delivered exactly that. Early in the match, he swung in a corner that led directly to the decisive goal, a moment that underlined why he had been brought in and what he can offer when given responsibility. The Scottish Cup victory over Raith Rovers may not have been the most polished display, but it was effective, and Cameron played his part. He spoke afterwards about the importance of simply getting through the tie, recognizing that cup football often demands pragmatism over style. There was no sense of defiance or bitterness in his words, just a quiet determination to improve, to tighten up certain aspects, and to build momentum with each game. For a player under scrutiny, it was a measured and mature response. More importantly, Cameron made it clear that he is committed to earning over those who remain skeptical. He understands that trust is built on performances, not statements, and that consistency will ultimately matter more than any initial reaction. By keeping his head down and focusing on the pitch, he hopes to shift the conversation away from where he came from and towards what he can contribute now. In a league where emotions often run high, that approach may prove to be his strongest asset. The episode has also reopened a broader discussion about how players are treated when they move between clubs, particularly in a footballing culture as intense as Scotland's. Career decisions are rarely simple, especially for young players navigating limited opportunities and fierce competition. Cameron's choice to remain in the country rather than look elsewhere was driven by the desire for regular football and development. That context, however, was largely lost amid the initial backlash, replaced by assumptions and anger that ignored the human element of the decision. As the dust begins to settle, the focus will inevitably return to football. Cameron has drawn his line, made his stance clear, and backed it up with action on the pitch. He knows that acceptance will not come overnight, but he also knows that sustained effort has a way of changing minds. For now, he remains fully invested in the challenge ahead, determined to repay faith with performances and to ensure that his time at Aberdeen is defined by contribution rather than controversy. While the focus has largely been on the reaction surrounding Lyle Cameron's arrival, attention inside Rangers has quietly shifted back to squad management and the delicate balancing act required during a demanding season. One name that has found itself at the center of speculation is Oliver Antman, a player whose situation has sparked plenty of discussion despite the club's firm stance behind the scenes. With the January window open and fresh faces arriving, questions were always going to be asked about who might make way. But Rangers have been clear that there is no intention of weakening the group at this stage. Antman's recent absence from the emphatic Scottish Cup win over Annan Athletic only added fuel to the rumour mill. The winger missed out through illness, coming just after a frustrating spell on the sidelines caused by a leg problem. For some, it was quickly interpreted as a sign that his time might be running out. Inside the club, however, the view is very different. Those close to the situation maintain that his lack of minutes has been more about misfortune than a loss of faith, and that he remains part of the plans for the second half of the campaign. The context matters here. Rangers have added further quality and competition in the wide areas, increasing the pressure on every attacking player in the squad. Rather than seeing this as a reason to move Antman on, the coaching staff view it as a necessary step to ensure depth across multiple competitions. With the league race still alive and domestic cups demanding focus, the priority has been to maintain options rather than trim them. Mid-season exits, particularly for players who can still contribute, are not being encouraged. In Antman's case, injuries have disrupted any rhythm he might have built. Each time he has looked ready to push for a run of games, another setback has stalled that progress. From the manager's perspective, making a final judgment under those circumstances would be premature. There is a strong belief that he deserves the chance to be assessed when fully fit, training consistently, and free from the stop-start cycle that has defined his recent months, and that patience reflects a broader approach within the club rather than reacting to outside noise or short-term form swings. The emphasis has been on stability and careful evaluation. Antman's return to the matchday squad against Aberdeen before illness struck was viewed internally as a positive sign, a small but important indicator that he had not been cast aside. It suggested that, when available, he remains in the conversation and capable of offering something different in wide areas. For the player himself, the challenge is clear. Staying fit will be crucial, as opportunities in a competitive squad are rarely handed out without persistence. When chances do come, making an impact becomes even more important, especially with others also pushing for minutes. The belief at Rangers is that Ant-Man still has the tools to influence games, but consistency will ultimately determine how prominent his role becomes as the season reaches its decisive phase. The wider transfer picture also provides context. Although Rangers have been loosely linked with the potential return for a former academy product now struggling for minutes elsewhere, there is no sense of urgency around defensive recruitment. With additions already made on the left side of defense, the focus has shifted away from reshaping the back line and towards getting the most out of the current group. That approach reinforces the idea that this window is about fine-tuning rather than overhaul. As the weeks progress, the pressure will only increase, both domestically and in cup competition. Managing minutes, maintaining fitness, and keeping players engaged will be key to navigating what lies ahead. For Rangers, holding on to Ant-Man is part of that strategy, a reflection of the belief that depth can make the difference when fatigue and injuries begin to bite. The noise around his future may continue, but for now, the message from within the club is one of patience and opportunity, not exits and endings. Beyond individual situations, there is a clear sense that Rangers are approaching this phase of the season with caution rather than impulse. Every decision is being weighed against the bigger picture, where momentum, morale, and continuity are just as important as fresh energy. The coaching staff understand that disrupting the group mid-season can carry risks, especially when the margins in Scottish football are so fine. That thinking has shaped how potential departures are viewed, with retention often seen as the safer and smarter option. Competition within the squad is being framed as a positive challenge rather than a threat. Players are being pushed daily to raise their levels in training, knowing that places are earned, not guaranteed. This internal pressure is something the club believes will sharpen performances across the board, particularly as fixtures begin to pile up. For wide players like Ant-Man, it means every session and every cameo carries weight, keeping standards high and focus sharp. There is also an awareness that form can shift quickly. A player on the fringes one week can become central the next, especially when injuries or suspensions intervene. Rangers have experienced that reality many times before, and it has reinforced the importance of having trusted options ready to step in. Rather than viewing squad players as expendable, the emphasis is on readiness and reliability when called upon. As the campaign continues to unfold, these internal battles and quiet decisions will shape how Rangers navigate the months ahead. With key fixtures approaching and ambitions still very much alive, the spotlight will remain firmly on performances rather than speculation. Inside the club, the focus stays on preparation, patience, and making sure that when opportunities arise, the squad is ready to respond on the pitch. Another element influencing Rangers' thinking is the mental side of the game, particularly during a stretch where pressure is constant and expectations never ease. Keeping players feeling valued and involved is seen as crucial to maintaining a healthy dressing room atmosphere. When individuals believe they still have a role to play, even if minutes are limited, the overall unity of the group tends to remain stronger. That sense of collective purpose is something the club is keen to protect. There is also an understanding that supporters often judge situations from the outside without access to the full picture. Training performances, tactical needs, and physical condition all play a part in selection, even if they are not immediately visible on match day. Decisions that appear questionable in isolation can make far more sense within the broader framework of a long season. Rangers are confident that their approach will be vindicated as the campaign develops. Ultimately, the coming weeks will provide clarity for several players hovering on the edge of regular involvement. Injuries, form, and fixture congestion have a way of reshaping squads quickly, and Rangers are preparing for that reality rather than reacting to headlines. By prioritizing stability and trust in the group they have assembled, the club aims to keep itself in the strongest possible position as the decisive moments draw closer. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. Panic appears to be spreading through Ibrox as whispers of unrest within the Rangers camp begin to surface. Sources close to the club suggest that manager Danny RÖHL may have sparked a storm of controversy by reportedly sending the team captain packing during a recent training session. While the details remain sketchy, insiders claim tensions boiled over in what some are calling a disciplinary showdown, leaving players and staff alike in a state of uncertainty. The incident has left fans and pundits speculating about the state of affairs behind the closed doors of the iconic stadium. RÖHL, still relatively new at the helm, is said to be asserting a no-nonsense approach, but whether this particular episode was a necessary enforcement of authority or a sign of deeper cracks within the squad is yet to be determined. The decision to remove a player of such stature during preparations for a significant European clash has naturally fueled rumors of potential fallout, with some suggesting that this could signal the beginning of a wider dressing room rebellion. Adding fuel to the fire, chatter among supporters hints at a growing divide between the managerial team and the senior players. The captain's sudden ejection has not only raised eyebrows but also prompted questions over the unity and morale of the squad ahead of a crucial fixture against LUDOGORETS. With whispers of behind-the-scenes arguments and perhaps even long-standing grievances finally reaching the boiling point, the Rangers camp is suddenly under intense scrutiny from all quarters. While RÖHL has not commented publicly on the matter, speculation is rife that this move was intended to send a clear message to the rest of the squad. Yet, observers warn that such high-profile disciplinary actions, if not carefully managed, can backfire spectacularly, potentially destabilizing team harmony just when cohesion is most needed. Fans, journalists, and rivals alike are now left to wonder, was this an isolated flashpoint or the first sign of a storm brewing over Ibrox? Whatever the truth, one thing is clear: the atmosphere at the club has shifted, and all eyes will be on how Rangers navigate the fallout before their European challenge. Rumors, gossip, and speculation aside, the next few days are likely to be tense, with supporters nervously waiting to see if the squad rallies behind their manager or if further sparks threaten to ignite a wider controversy. Ibrox may yet prove resilient, but for now, the corridors echo with uncertainty, and every training session carries the weight of anticipation, speculation, and intrigue. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.